Howdy folks, my name is Janaki.
And this is Madame Bathsheba.
And together we are Catomancy Tarot. So today I wanted to hop on real quick just to kind of give you a walkthrough and review of a new deck I just received. I'm very excited about this one. I've been ogling it on Instagram for quite some time, and that is the Tarot de Ambiguities by Alejandro Rozan and created in partnership with Artisan Tarot. So I just received this deck from Artisan for review, and I'm excited to kind of get into it and show you some of my thoughts. So without further ado, I'm going to switch this around and let's take a look at the cards.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here. So it comes in this cute little tuck box. You can pick these up on Artisan Tarot's website, along with all of their other decks. So it comes with all cards, and then you have these two little, oh, that's just the, oh, everyone's slipping and sliding here. Part of, and you can tell it has a linen finish, which is what makes them slippy and slidey. So you get the title card, which reads, "The Tarot of Ambiguities is a reimagination of the Tarot de Marseille, faithful to its style and inspired by its symbolism. A vibrant narrative emerges from evocative art hand-drawn by Alejandro Rozan in Cuba, I believe." Yeah, they're using V's instead of U's in the old-fashioned style, and it threw me for a loop for a second. Details of this original deck are explored in Tarot Shapeshifter and its guidebook, written by Stephen Bright. I don't have that guidebook, but I think it might be a fun one to pick up for this deck. The powerful images were designed to enhance the invitation of seasoned readers and excite newcomers to the rich and evolving tarot tradition. I think that's a great little narrative and a great little author's statement. So this is just a title card from Artisan, so you can still pick these up. And so yeah, these are the backs of the cards. We've already seen them slide around a little bit, so we know we've got that great linen finish. And so what I thought I would do with these cards is I thought we would take a look at them side by side with an actual historic Marseille deck, so we can see some of the innovations that Alejandro made to the images, and that way we can see them a little clearly. I think the images and coloring were inspired by some of the older decks, so I thought the Dodal might be an appropriate comparison. And this way we can just kind of, let's make sure we're centered here. That way we can just take a look and we can see some of the changes he's made clearly. I mean, first off here, we've got the Fool and the little cat dog lynx creature have switched places, which is joyful. I kind of dig that. And so maybe it's, you know, this, instead of your animal side cautioning your human side, now your human side is like cautioning your animal side. Very fun. And then we have the magician, which seems to have grown some limbs, and one of his feet, so even more hands and feet in which to kind of play with sleight of hand and deceive us. Then we've got our papess, and it looks like we've got a little critter peeking out from under her skirts. The Empress with roses at her feet, and this sort of fluorescence, this outbursting of these flourishes, which are, you know, all over the minor, so kind of extra creative stuff, I guess. And then it seems like the eagle from the shield has flown the coop, and now he's sitting on the emperor's shoulder. Let's see here. This still seems fairly traditional, except that instead of looking at in rapture at the Pope, these two guys seem to be talking on their own, and so maybe they're the guys who know what's going on here instead of him. It looks like we've got some angels who the central figure has to choose from. So now it's a choice amongst angels instead of humans. All three have wings here, which is kind of fun. And then here we've got the sun and moon coming to life on his lapels, and we've got human faces on these horses, which I know you can see that in the Vivial, but it's also kind of fun to see that here about where's the power coming from in this situation. So a little bit of a spoiler here, but you'll notice once we get to the court cards and the pips, you'll see them holding this symbol. So this is kind of the symbol of the sword, which is replaced by one of these curvy sword boys that are usually traditionally seen in the pips. You'll also notice her eyes are closed here, but she's got an open third eye, and we've got a heart and a head. So weighing the heart against the head is an interesting motif here, and these are both two of the suits become the hearts and the heads. So that's kind of a fun, and you can tell they've used the same lettering throughout, and the same system of numbering. So here, 9s are written the long way out. But this is a fun little head boggle, holding his head out, and the lamp is in the place that his head was. And then here we've got the wheel, which even more chaos, and we've got it's held up by feet, which is quite fun. And then another classic switch up here, who's controlling who. So now both of these creatures are little chimeras for us. We have La Pendue with a hand holding his foot, and a little blossom coming out of his tunic there. I really do love this death card. I think all of the extra flourishes are really, really beautiful, and I think they kind of, the sort of destruction on the bottom and the sort of blackness of the fertile soil kind of coming up to give death this kind of new life. I think that's a really cool touch there. And we've got our Temperance with even bigger wings, and the water doing a little lemon skate dance for us. This is also a very fun inversion about who's got the power here. These guys still appear to be leashed, but now they're up top. So that's a fun thing to kind of like play around with. You can tell that this deck really is a love letter to the Marseille, in the way it's sort of like so, it's so picked up on all of these little embellishments, and like it's playing with the symbols in a really, really fun way. So here, look, we've still got this little bird, which I love, but now the star is taking the place of her head, and then you have her disembodied head in the water, and you don't know if that's kind of her reflection or if it's one of those, Lord of the Rings in the swamp, going through the swamps of Mordor spooky moment. That's another fun little reversal there. And I think for all of them, you're going to have the faces become the heads of other kind of bodies. And so here, the sort of the crawdad becomes the body, and our dogs are now in the water, and they've got their little fish tails, which is quite fun. So we have our moon entity, and we have our sun entity, and now he's riding the horse, and we've seen the horse come up in like the veil, so this seems kind of a nod to that a little bit, and the face seems a little father timey to me, but we still have our kiddos playing in front of this wall. We have our judgment, and here you can see the kind of like crazy eye wing figure of that kind of like biblical angel vibe. And we have our figures, one of them is facing us instead of facing away. And then lastly here, we've got the wheel, or the world. And this is kind of fun, because here we can see that all of our cherubic beasts, who are usually in the four corners, have joined the figure in the middle. And then we've got these humans who have replaced the place of the beasts, and they're each holding the four suits. But it almost looks to me like usually Taurus represents Earth, so I would have thought that maybe coins would be in this corner, and the wands would be in this corner, representing fire, which would be the lion and Leo. And then up top too, it looks like the eagle usually represents the fixed sign of Scorpio, which is a water sign. And here we have Aquarius for an angel. So it feels like these guys are mirrored a little bit, but it's still a really fun idea of having what happens when our cherubic beasts are on the inside with us. Very fun. And so, okay, these are upside down, but then we get into the pip cards. And so maybe we'll just start with the aces here. And so instead of the usual suits, they're replaced by arms for the swords. And then we have legs for the wands. And if you take a look, they've even sort of reproduced in French, so this would be the King of Swords, but now it's bras, or arms, so the King of Arms. And similarly here we get, the whole suit is now named after the limb. So this took me a minute to realize, but this is actually a J. So this is Roi de Jambes, which would be the King of Legs, and he's holding a wand that goes into this armored leg here, which is very cool. And then similarly for the, I love this one so much. I think this is my favorite card in the deck. I saw this card and I knew I needed to have this deck. It's so beautiful. And this is an example of like, this Ace of Cups is so often seen as like the card that signifies love or the start of a new emotional thing. And to have this like, big, like bloody, pulsating, heart stuck on this pedestal is just like a really beautiful, it just shows his like deep understanding of the Marseille and appreciation, and it makes this deck feel really, really visceral in a way that's kind of exciting to me. So the whole suit of cups is renamed as the cœurs, or hearts. Pardon my French, I know it's terrible. And then lastly, we have the suit of coins, which becomes the suit of heads. And I think that's really clever, because in part, coins so often have a heads and a tails to them. let's just go ahead and take a look at some of them. And you can tell that, you know, we still have sort of the maker's information on the Two of Coins, which is very traditional. But we have all of these severed heads in the place of our coins here, and they're all kind of within these flourishes and within these same patterns, which I think is really interesting. But it raises the question for me, if I'm reading this as the suit of heads, I want to read it as the suit of heads and not the suit of coins. So heads for me, it no longer feels about, I mean, what do heads suggest? Heads suggest thought. So where the suit of swords is usually seen as the suit of thought, it feels like that those meanings kind of get transposed onto heads for me. It's a little bit of a mix-up, but I feel like it would be hard for me to read this just as coins, because they're severed heads. So I feel like it alters the suit meanings for a little bit for me, which I don't mind. I don't know. I'm curious what the guidebook would have to say about it. But similarly, so if we have the suit of heads, it makes me think of, thought. It's opposed to the suit of hearts. So, we have the rational, the thinking, the sort of identity, heads see, they interpret, they speak. And then hearts still feels quite traditional. It still feels like, feeling. It feels like emotions. It still feels very similar to the original cups. And I love these hearts. I love them so much. I just think it's just like a brilliant move. And the Page of Cups just holding open his like open, vulnerable, beating heart and offering it to someone just feels like a very Page of Cups things to do. It's so good. It's so good. So that the suit of hearts feels very similar to the original meaning. But then you have, and these are the two kind of like usually seen as more, passive suits, the cups and coins. But heads, heads, now it feels like all of the thinking, planning, scheming, realm of ideas, and this still feels like the feeling. So heads and hearts. And then you have the arms and the limbs. And these still feel like very active. But thinking about swords to me no longer feels to be about the mind. And it feels more about, you still have, a hand holds a sword, a hand holds a pen. But it's not speaking, it's action, it's doing things in the world. And similarly with legs, legs take you places, right? So it still has this like willpower and drive, but now it's sort of in the metaphor of the feet, which kind of like move you forward in the world, right? And cleverly here we can see the hands and the feet at the ends of each of these, which are just kind of very, I don't know, it tickles my fancy. It's very fun. So, I am curious what the book might say about the suit of arms and the suit of legs. The suit of arms, I no longer feel like I can think about this particular suit as being about thoughts. It feels more about, it also has like, the hands make things, hands do things. So it's about work, and it does feel like the swords and the heads have swapped. The swords and the coins for me have kind of swapped meanings, even if they still have those same sort of elemental correspondences. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Are you going to read this deck as a normal Marseille deck, or are you going to kind of go with what the new suits sort of suggest to you? Curious to hear your thoughts. The last thing I also wanted to point out is we've got this, I forgot to point this out in the Suit of Hearts, but I love this nod to, yeah, mermaid horse. What do you call them? A mermaid horse. And that's a nod to, you know, thinking about the Suit of Hearts is connected with water still. So that's the full flip through, and what I thought we would might be fun to do now is to give this guy a good shuffle, and then draw 3 cards and see how it reads. So as you can see, it has just this incredible riffle shuffle. If I can manage to shuffle on camera, they are quite slidey with that linen finish. And so I always feel like it's quite important for most tarot spreads, but especially for Tarot de Marseille, to have a question. But let's just ask, what's a message for all of us going forward in this week? You know, what do we need to keep an eye out for this week? Maybe that would be a good question to ask our ambiguous tarot deck. And we'll do one more just because we can, and we're here, and we're shuffling. All right. So we'll draw 3 cards here. And we have the Cavalier of Arms. We have Death. Ooh, and we have the 8 of Heads. So it feels like, let's see here. We've got this continuation of this like battleground here. So it looks like this Cavalier is running away, and that this Death card is like moving forward to, you know, do some battlefield cleanup, clean up a bunch of heads. It feels it feels like these guys are in the same scene, and so it feels like he's leaving someone else to do the dirty work this week. So I don't know. Maybe that's a weird interpretation. What do you guys think? What would you make of these cards? I also just noticed that this is a unicorn. So maybe, you know, we're fleeing a sight of it feels, I don't know. It's hard not to read the Death card going towards this field of severed heads as a necessary, you know, it feels like, yeah, the knight, maybe the knight is being righteous and he's able to turn away from things that displease him. And 8s are kind of like a number, a very structured number. And so, yeah, maybe the message for us this week is to, not engage in things that displease us. I don't know, bit of a weird message. I'm still working on my reading style, but what message would you guys see in these cards? Comment down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.